Hello viewers, this is Mithul here. In this module, I'll be covering the module 4.1, which will be the databases, schema and the tables, in which we will be learning about the understanding of system databases. Then we will learn about the create, alter and drop databases. We will learn about the create or drop schema. The third one will be create, alter or drop tables or temporary tables. Could be the local or global temp table. So let's get started. So basically, in this, first of all, for the system databases, right, 4.1.0, let us just understand like how many system databases are there in the SQL Server, right? There are four kind of SQL Server system databases. One of them is the master, the second one is the model, third one is MSDB, fourth one is the TempDB. What are the usage of all four DBs, right? Why are we using them, or why it is there in the system? So now let us just understand one by one. First of all, like the master DB is basically used to maintain the system level metadata. Okay, now each and every database is related information like the log or maybe the data file related information, the metadata like the particular file or the particular object, or say like a tables, each and every object related information that will be stored under this master database. Okay, now second point is model database. Why do we use model database? Model database are used as a template kind of a database, in which what user can do is for the current SQL Server instance, we can particularly save for a particular database. If we want to create a kind of like, if we have to create number of databases, then we can define their respective size, collation, recovery model and DB options to any other DB specifically. All of those settings related template we can create, and that template can be saved into the model database, so that afterwards what all databases or what all objects would be created, it will have the given settings into this template. Okay, for that purpose. The third one is the MSDB. MSDB is mainly used for three purposes. The first one is like the database mail. Now what is database mail? So mailing, that like how we do using the SMTP, right? So one way of doing that one is SMTP, but before that we need to use this database mail. We need to configure that SQL Server database mail that is configured onto this MSDB. Okay, the second option is to do is like SQL Server agent scheduling alerts. Now SQL Server like the maintenance task, right? If the DBA has to schedule some maintenance activity, right, or perform some maintenance activity, when they can do it offline or over when the period is offline, right? So in that case they perform this activity, and those activity related jobs are created and scheduled using the SQL Server agent. Okay, and the third one is like the DTS or the SSIS file system packages, which are like deployed or hosted. These are like the ETL or say like a integration services related packages. It could be the maintenance job as well as, or it could be the other ETL job, which could be pulling some data from various other source system to the intermediate or maybe to the target system. So those kind of the legacy kind of packages are covered and can be deployed or hosted into the MSDB. That is the third point. Now the purpose, and the fourth database like the TempDB. Why do we use it? That is used for the temporary result set, like to store the temporary result set. Okay, now what are the temporary result sets? Meaning like the local temp table results, or maybe like a global temp table results. All of those are like the temporary result sets. So those are saved under this TempDB. That's it. Nothing much into this. And let us just move on with the actual database that user will be creating, or how we can create that, right? Now, before we create any database, we always need to make sure that whether that database is already present with the same name in the system or not, right? To make sure we can write this syntax, this command. Okay, now this is the option 1. Before the SQL Server 2016, this was the syntax, right? To do that, what we do is, if db underscore id in bracket, learning db is the database name that we are passing to this system function. What this function does is it returns like the database id, meaning like the learning db id, it will return to this function. If this function returns some value, meaning that value, well, if it returns some value, meaning it is not null. So if it is not null, only in that case we are interested to drop the database, right, with the same name. If it doesn't return any id, meaning like if this db itself is not there, it will not have some id assigned to it, correct? So it may not return anything. So in that case, this command itself will not run. Okay, so that was the earlier way, or maybe the legacy way of executing the drop database statement or drop database command. Okay, now the revised command for the same is, after 2016 version of SQL Server, they have revised the command, which is like this: drop database if exist and then database name. That is how we just have to write it. Okay, so it will make sure that whether that database is there. If it is there, then just drop it. Okay, so let us just run and see it in action. So let us just make sure first of all whether we have it. Yes, yeah, we do have, because maybe we in the practice maybe we have created earlier. So let us just drop it. Okay, so we'll just have to connect to SQL Server first. Okay, now as we are connected, now we can run to it. All right, so let's just go to the database branch here and do the refresh. Okay, so now learning db has gone. Now let us just remove this learning db2 as well, right? Because we do not want that db as well, right? So let me just temporarily put this here and let me drop this. Okay, so now it is also dropped. So we just have to go here and then say to refresh. Okay, so that one is also removed. Now what we will do, the drop statement you know now, right? Like drop command, how to drop a database, that you know. Now we will learn the create a database syntax. How we can create? Very simple. Instead of drop database, just say create database. Simple. Create database, database name. That's the syntax, the plain simple syntax. By default it will fetch the database size on its own and then creates the database for you. Okay, so let us just create it. Now let us just go here to refresh and see like whether the database is created. See, every time we run the command respectively, we have to go to the SSMS here and select this databases branch in the object explorer and then do the refresh here. A refresh will do what? Like it will just show you the latest objects which are refreshed, meaning like created, removed or anything. So that updated objects you may be able to see to them here. Now as this database is created, it appears as if like a database, like an object, right? But that object is created of what, right? It is created of two files basically. There are two files which gets created in the backend for that purpose. Once the database created, there are two files. One of them is the data file and the other one is the log file. Now let us just go and see what all those files are. Learning DB, go to learning DB and then right click on it and then click on the properties tab option. And in the properties dialog, the window, we just select the files section. So go to the files tab and see like expanding this branch, we can see like there are two files which are created in the backend, like for creating this database. What is that? The first one is the learning DB, the rows data. The file type is the rows data, meaning like the data file. which has the file group assigned as a primary, because it is like a primary file group. So whichever database, whatever database that you may create, by default it will be assigned to this primary file group only. Okay, so that is the thing we need to remember. By default size, when you don't specify any size, by default as per the system specification, it will fetch the 8 MB as the default size. Then the max size can be unlimited, but the growth can be up to 64 MB. Okay, and growth will be up to can be like a 64 MB in that case. So growth will be like 64 MB. After 8 MB is filled, then 64 MB will be added back to the 8 MB. Then it will become 72. Correct? Like that. Again, 72 will be filled up. Then again 64 will be added. Like that, unless it is last forever, like that. And then the file path. Now what is the file path here? The exact SQL Server instance which is installed in your system, right, at C drive or any particular drive, that is on the server side. Suppose you are using the remote systems, right, or virtual systems, then you just need to check that respective server's particular drive under which the default instance is installed. For that, there is a folder called MS SQL, and then there is a data folder. Okay, now below this data folder, both of these files are getting created. Both of these files, meaning one of them is the data file, the other one is for the logging purpose, which is the log file. The first one is the master data file, meaning like the data file is called MDF extension. The second one will be given as .ldf, meaning log data file. Okay, now the log data file will have by default logical name as learningdb underscore log. By default it will just take the suffix as underscore log, just to differentiate between the name of the data and the logging database file, right? For that reason, the file type will be log, so that you can understand which kind of file it is. There will be no file group assigned to it. Okay, but the size and the rest of the things remain as per the defined system specification. Now as you see, like there is a file group assigned, primary file group is assigned here, right? We can go to this primary. Where can we see these file groups, whichever is assigned to a particular file, right? There is a tab called file groups. That's where we can see to these file groups. Okay, there are read only, default, and all auto grow all files options that you can check at as per your practice exercise time. You can do the practice of that. So that is there. And here by default, like the owner will be SA here. Suppose you are logged in using a SQL authentication, right? So in that case you may see the SQL authentication or SQL login name. Whereas in the case of Windows authentication, you may see the Windows user, whoever has logged into the system. That user's login you may see here, and then that person will be the owner for this particular database. Okay. Now the database name is learningdb and the owner is SA. SA means SQL Server Administrator. Okay, system administrator. All right, so let's just go out of this. Yeah. Now, as we saw that we did not specify the file size while creating the database. That was the default way of one of the way to create the database in a quickest moment. Okay, when you don't have any precise specification for creating the database. Now as you may have any specific requirement where you need a specific size based database. Okay, so in that case what you may do, you may use the same previously defined syntax like for dropping and using the database, right? So let us just apply that first, and then what we can do is we can create the database with the new name, because like earlier we have used learningdb, we may not be able to use the same name. Let us give it some different name. So we are giving it a name called learningdb2. Now learningdb2 by default it will be created on where? It will be created on the primary file group. Okay, so that is why here it is created on primary file group. Now this section is entirely telling us the same thing what we have seen in the property dialog box. What? The first one, the first attribute or first property, it shows us the logical name of the database. Okay, what here it has given, the same name can be given here. Okay, Then the second attribute is the file name. What is file name? File name will be the physical file path where your master data file, or say like a primary data file, is actually stored, okay, in a physical server, or maybe in your local system, or at a remote server. Then you specify the size. By default, what will be the size that you want in megabytes? This is like a megabyte size, 8 MB. File growth will be in addition to 8 MB. What is the kind of increment you want? Once this 8 MB gets filled, what is the kind of increment that you want? That is what you will specify in the file growth. Meaning once this 8 MB will be filled up, you will add 8 MB more to that. Okay, meaning 8 MB, once it is filled, then 8 will be added, then it will become 16 MB, right? But then it can go up to how many MB? How much MB? It will go up to 40 MB. Okay, it will go up to 40 MB. So 8 into 8, 60, like that it will go up to 40 and then it will stop. Okay, that is how the primary file group works. Now, supposingly we have reached to a point where the 40 MB is also utilized. Now what user will do, or what we may do as a developer, we may have to extend that, right? To do that, we have the option for that. What we can do is we can define a secondary file group. This was like the primary file group, right? Since we know that primary is there. Now, how can we do is we need to define a secondary file group in such scenario. So we can define a secondary file group. Secondary file group usually is created on a separate, say like a separate drive, okay, separate device or separate drive somewhere outside of the same, the different server possibly. Okay, so that, you know, like maybe FTP drive or maybe any particular drive which is mapped to this particular system, and that file path we may be giving as a secondary file here, or maybe on the same system but on a different physical drive. Maybe like if it is defined here like the primary is on the C drive, maybe this can be your D drive, or say like E drive, or any other drives maybe, right? So secondary may not necessarily be on the same drive. Here I'm just, for example, I have taken that all of them in the same drive, but it will be actually on the different drive, okay, or can be set up like that. So rest of the properties or attributes remain same, like the name, file names, file size, and the file growth, max size, everything will remain same based on your necessity. Maybe like 40, after 40 MB, what is the file size that you need in a secondary, right? So by default you want the 5 MB as an extension. Then you want the file growth in that extension will be 5 that you want as an add-on. Every time once 5 MB is filled, you want to add 5 MB more to that, up to 20 MB more. Okay, now both of these are there. Now the third block is for what purpose? Third block is to for the logging purpose. Usually like the first block is used and then the third block is used. I have combined this file group section in here just to help you understand together while creating the database what are the file group concepts. Okay, that may be covered later part, but I wanted to cover it here because since we are learning the database creation, then why not understanding it right away, so it will become easy for you, right? So that I am explaining you the file group concept here so that it will be easy for you to understand. Now this by default like this data file is created. So in general, like if you have to specify the data file, then you will just specify this section and then the logging section only will be specified. Okay, so in logging section you may specify the same way like the logical name, file name, size, file growth and max size, same way like you mentioned for the data file, right? File path will be .ldf, log data file. Okay, just remember that the same file path where the master data file, or say like the data file or the primary data file is saved, the same file path you should be giving. Okay, then let us just see, we have not run this, right? So let us just run to see that first up to here. Okay, and then run this. Okay, all right, so now we should see the learning db2 created now. Okay, database, and then do the refresh. So now learning DB is 2 created. Go to the properties, check that how many files are there, right? We should be seeing 3 files. Why 3 files? You should answer that because we have created the secondary file group as well. Earlier we saw only 2 files in the previous section, right? Because the default file group is the primary file group, that is the data file group, and then the second one was for the logging purpose, so that was the second. But now this time in this syntax we have specified the secondary file group as well, which is called LDB group, and that is given a logical name as LDB file 1. Okay, and that has given the file 5 MB 5 MB size and max up to the 20 MB size. The file path is C drive learningdb fg, that is the file path, and then the extension for the secondary file name will be .ndf, that thing to remember. Okay, because the primary file group will have the name as .mdf master data file, but here it will have the .ndf. Okay, just remember that way only. .ndf will be the secondary file group name. Rest of the things remain same. Then also you can see to this LDB group created in the file group section as well. Okay, so see here. Okay, so this is like the secondary file group which got created here, and then we can see it in the UI, and you can test all of this option as per your convenience. Okay, let us go back and see the commands afterwards. Now as we saw visually all of these options, but now let's say you have like number of other databases, you want to see all of them together, maybe like 5 to 6 databases related size that you want to see together. What you can do is you can specify each of the database names separated by comma and put them in some syntax called name like in. Okay, and in here you may specify their names like this. Okay, as per the syntax, possibly let's say just I'm giving for an example learning db 1 just for example. Okay, so learning db 1, then if you have to specify then learning db 2, like that it can be specified. Okay, now this is how if you specify, then multiple database related information that you may be able to see to that. Let us just see for an example. Okay, let us just see 2 of the database related information. What all 2 databases we want to see here? Learning DB, which we created, and then the learning DB 2. Both of this database related information that we want to see, that what is the size of the database, what is the max length of the database or max size of the database, and what was the file growth for a database, right? So all of this attribute related information we wanted to see. So we have the system view for that purpose. Okay, just remember this very carefully. This is like a system view which has the all database related in your system, whatever databases may be there, all of those database related information is saved, or that metadata related information is saved into this. You can view that information using this view sys.master files. Okay, now let us just run to see that. Okay, so how many database information that we are seeing here? Learning DB and learning DB 2. Why we are seeing only 2 files instead of 4 files? Because we have specified learning DB keyword here and learning DB 2 as a keyword. Now suppose if I want to see, this is like a data file related file size that you are seeing. Okay, it has not shown up the log DB information. Now you want to see the log DB information as well. How can you see that? Then we will do this comment. Okay, comment can be done with double dash, and then uncomment can be done using removing that. Okay, so that's for that reason, in that case how we can write it? Name like, then the learning DB as a prefix keyword, and then suffix will be percentage symbol. Okay, that we will put in, and then single quote over. If we do this, then both this database related source like the data file at the same time the log file can both of them will be written in the result. Let us just see, right? Now you may ask, like, how come in that case it is returning 4 files and in this case only 2 files? Because this percentage symbol is used to specify that whatever there may be the name of the DB, whatever the DB name there may be, just list all of those DB names which has a prefix as a learning DB, or it starts with the learning DB keyword. So here you see, like, all 4 of these is starting with the learning DB as a keyword, right? Irrespective it is like a 2 here or underscore log afterwards, but prefix is same, right? For all of four of these. For that reason, it is returning you all 4 of the database and the log related files. This is for specifying, or say like showing the all of the database or whichever you are interested in by putting this filter called where clause. Okay. Now suppose you do not want to put a filter and you just want to select here by the name of the database. You say, like, I do not want to put this filter, instead I just want to see a particular database related information. Say, like, I do not want to go for the learning DB, I just want to see the master DB. How can I do that? How can I see that? We can go and see that by using the sys.database files. What may happen is, so by default, whatever there may be the database selected, if you just run this view with the same number of fields, okay, the same fields that we have listed here, the same number of fields you will be listing down here. Only just the name changes is from master files to the database underscore files, right? That is what we will be changing to it, and then just run it. Okay, so you see, by default we did not specify any where clause, even though we are seeing the master DB related information, master and the master log file, both the files, right? Here we do not need to worry about like whether we have to specify a particular filter and then percentage and this and that, nothing like that. Just select the particular database. Say, like, now instead of master DB we want to see to the learning DB. How can we see that? Just select the use command. Okay, use learning DB. Say go is like a batch separator. So just each and every commands, if you want to separate them, right? So in a batch, if you want to execute multiple commands, you can put them together, and after that you can put this go as a keyword. Then it will just execute all of those commands together in a single batch. Okay, that is the purpose of go. So let us just run this. Okay, so yeah, it has selected learning DB now. Now if you run this command, the same command, it will show us the information from learning DB only. See, that is how it will show up. Okay, so that is just to view the database related information. There are few more additional columns into these views that you can explore in your exercise, but for the example purpose, like what all are the default properties that we have set in this previous section, that is what I am trying to list down here. Okay, now the third thing, we learn the drop, then we learn the create statement or create command, right? We learn the drop and then we learn the create. Now let us just learn about the altering of the database. Say, like, we drop the database, then we created the database. Now let's say we created a first file group, or so like we created a secondary file group, but say now the secondary file group file also is about to fill up. Now what you will do, you again have to extend that, right? So how can you extend that? There is a syntax for that purpose. So there is a syntax called alter database, then give the database name, which is learning db2, then we will add a file to that. Meaning, like previously we have specified file 1, ldb file 1 we have specified here, right? Now what we will be doing, we will be using the same file group, but we will be adding a file 2. ldb file 2 is what we will be adding to the same file group. Okay, so let us just define the section like the same way how we defined it here. The same way it will be defined here as well. It will just have the different name, ldb file 2 and then the ldb file 2.ndf. Rest of the file size as per your need you can put in, file size, max size, right? And file growth, whatever you want you can put in. And where this new file will be added. I mean, this new file you are saying like add this file, but where to add, right? So to specify that, there is a keyword for that, to file group. Add this file, but where? Add this file to the file group called LDB group here. Okay, so that is where it will be added into. So let us just run. Okay, so command ran successfully. So this file should also be there now. Go here, refresh the database, okay, and then right click, properties, go to the file group and see files and see here. So under file section we are seeing now file 2 as well. File group will remain same because we did not change the file group. Here we are keeping only the same name as a secondary group. The same secondary group will rely only just the file name of the file will be changed. So that is what we saw that. Okay, now we learn all three of this command. Now we want to create a different thing, create or drop schema. Now what is create or drop schema? Now as you may identify, just for an example, let us just understand about you have the you remember by the first name, last name and middle name, or say like your family name, right? How you understand that family name as, you understand the family name as last name, right? So in here, say like in a SQL server, if we have to classify a particular database objects, right, to separate them, there is a concept called schema. Okay, what this schema concept do is, it creates a schema like a shell. It creates like a shell for that, and what that shell will do is like it will contain number of members within it. So say like we created a color family called stage. Now under stage family, how many objects or whatever objects that I may create, then all of those can be identified as a stage only. Like you may have created some last name, right? Then the same last name related first name, I mean like the family members will be there in that, right? So like that concept can be here, just to help you understand. I mean, so that way you can easily understand like what is the purpose of this schema. So schema is basically containing all the different sort of objects in a single root, or say under a hood of like a in a single shell basically. So in a single shell it is covering them. Okay, so there are two schema that I'm creating here. So two of this is like stage and DWH. Let us just run and create them, right? So those are created. Where can we see them? We have created under learning DB. So let us go under learning DB, expand the branch, go to the security, expand the branch, go to the schemas folder and then verify it. Okay, so DWH, stage, right? Both of these schemas are created. So always remember, if you use that and after that some commands are there, meaning those commands will always be present, or those objects will always be present under this DB only. Just remember that. Okay, so if we created this use this learning DB and then we created the schema, then schemas will be under that particular branch only, right? Like here. So under the security branch and under the schema folder, you will have that schemas created. Okay, users and roles we will be understanding in the subsequent section. So that's where we will be understanding more about the schemas extensive usage. Okay, for now we're just understanding about the creation purpose only. Now the 4.1.3, where we will be learning about the creating, altering and dropping the tables or temporary tables. Okay, now how it can be created is what we will be learning. By default we'll be using this learning DB. Okay, so let us just use this learning DB. Drop syntax we are much more familiar now. We will just replace the database with a table and then rest syntax remains same. If you want to drop the schema, also the keyword only changes, rest of the things remain same. If you see like the previous syntax, right, All of these syntaxes are very identical, so like you may not find it very difficult in writing it. So let's say like drop database. So drop database, if exists, then database name. Drop schema, if you want to write, then how it is written? Drop schema, if exists, then schema name, right? And then drop table, just the keyword change, drop table, if exists, then the table name with a schema name. Now since we created this schema, we need to make sure always that this schema has a particular object called a table named course. So we are making sure like if there is a stage.course table exists, then we want to drop it. So let us just run to see. There is nothing like that, but still the command ran successfully because it is making sure there is nothing existing there. Now since we created this stage as a family name, you understood now, right? Like, so it is like a shell which is created. Now under this shell we are adding up members now. A members called a table. Okay, so now the database object is a member kind of thing, which is like a table here. So this table is getting added to this schema which is called a stage. Okay, so let us just create the table. Now create the table, the syntax, basic syntax is like creating a field, the field name, then the data type, and then the not null constraint, just like a not nullable value. You want to use want user to forcefully enter the value into this column. The second column, the column data type here, and then the same constraint. Now we want to create this table, so we just create here. Let us just run this syntax. So this is the create table command, and then it has created the table. Now where can we see that? Under the learning DB, because we are doing everything under learning DB. So let us just go learning DB, refresh it, and then go to the branch called tables and expand it to see that. See, stage.course table is created now. Always make sure like with the definition, whatever columns you have defined or declared, those are created as intact as per your requirement, right? So integer varchar 50, integer varchar 50, everything created. Fine. Now as we created this table, now we have a business user requiring that sorry, I forgot to inform you that we may need this additional column, or maybe DBA told us, or maybe like a data modeler, or maybe architect told us that see, there is a change, maybe requirement changed, and we needed, as a developer, we may need to add a column. Now table is already created. How can we add that? There is a syntax for that. Alter table, then table name, and then the keyword called add, then the new column name, and then the data type, and then the constraint, the type of constraint that we want to apply to, and then say go. Okay, so let us just run through this. So we are creating a column called course code. There are two columns. We are adding third column to it. So let us just go here, stage.course, and refresh it now to see that the third column is added or not. Let us see. Yeah, it is added now, right? Now now as we added course code, but say like I forgot to give it a specific size. Instead of 12 as a varchar, I gave it by accidentally, I added it 10. Okay, so let me correct it. How can I correct it? Using the alter table name, alter column, which is just modifying the particular column for a particular data type. If you say like a column name is same only, but you just need any change in both of these things, maybe the data type change, or maybe the size change, or maybe the constraint you want to change to. Okay, so in that case you may use this syntax. So here we have a need to change the size of the data type, right? The varchar 12 is what we needed. So let us just refresh, run this command, and then refresh it here. So go here, refresh it, right? So just expand the branch and see varchar 12 is what we can see there. Now say like I created that, I altered that, and now I feel like, sorry, I by mistake added this column. I did not need this actually. So see, you need to be very cautious while dropping something or deleting something. Okay, so while you are dropping this column, there is a data already, Consider, say, like user may have added some data. Okay, now if you are removing the data, when you are dropping this column, dropping a column will go away with the data, right? So that we need to be very cautious. If we need, then we need to take a backup of this first. Make sure like no one is using that column related data, and then only drop it. Okay, so just be cautious whenever you apply this or whenever you run this command. Alter table stage course, drop column. Just the change of a the keyword here, instead of alter column, say like a drop column and then the column name. Okay, no need to specify anything else, just say column name. So let us just run this command. It will just drop the column from this table. Now course code will go away. Okay, just refresh it and say expand the column. Yeah, it has gone. So very simple. We understood now how to create the table, how to alter the table, how to alter a column within the table, right? How to add a column into the table, how to drop a table, right? All we know that. We knew everything now. Now this is about like the table, like the physical table we understood. But now what to do with the case when we have to use the temporary tables? Temporary tables are of two kind. Okay, temporary tables are of two kind. One of them is the local and then the other one is of the global. So let us just understand them here. Local temporary table will have a scope limited to a single user who has it created, only and only exclusive access to that temporary table, that local temporary table, for that user only. No other users other than that user who has it created can use it. Okay, so it is available to only the current user and in the current session. Always remember that this is very exclusive access and this is very important access. So whenever you need a data to be hidden, whenever you are working on a like a critical calculations, whenever you are storing a critical data, any personal information data you may be storing, you may be calculating something, so always save them in a local temporary table instead of saving it into the global temporary table. Now you may ask, why not global temporary table? So let me explain. Local temporary table is very specific to a single user and single session, whereas global temporary table is open for all, means there is no limit. The scope is unlimited. Now what unlimited means? Unlimited means available to all the users, irrespective of the user who has it created. It can be accessed by any other sessions as well. Not just the user who has it created, but the users who are there connected with the particular server, okay, for a particular database, can use this data the table. Okay, can modify, can access this table, modify, read or update, or read or modify, right? Anything they can do. It is like a shared kind of thing. It's like, you have file share. So in a file share you have kept something, right? It can be accessed by the organization entirely, right? Or like if it is kept wide, like in a public folder, then it can be accessed by all the users in the network, like that, right? So like that, it is a global nature. So always be cautious while using the global temporary table when you are very specific that there is no harm in sharing the data in a temporary table called global temp table. Okay, so in that case only try to use the global, otherwise always recommended to use is local temporary table. Okay, that's it for the day. So happy learning. Thank you.